Hello and welcome back to Europa Universalis 4. I am Lord Forwind, here today with a quick guide on going over the new government reforms from the Dharma expansion. The government of the Republic has the most government reforms and thus has the most decisions to make. Obviously, if you start as a unique republic, in this case I've started as Dithmarchin up here. You have a unique government form, in this case the Peasants Republic. If you're over here in Novgorod, you have a Vechi Republic. If you're doing Venice, you actually start as a, which one is this? Plutocrat. Plutocrat. I can never say that one. Plutocracy. If you're playing as somebody like Florence, you will start as an oligarchy. And let's see, what was the last one? I always forget this one. A noble elite, which I don't think there's actually any starting at the beginning of the game, but I could be wrong. I haven't investigated as much as I need to. So if you've got a choice for the first level, usually it's already been decided for you. So out of the starting three, though, if you're into trade, obviously you have to go with the whatever the government form is. I can't say. Plutocracy. Otherwise, I think the noble elite actually is slightly stronger than the oligarchy. The only difference is you lose the plutocratic ideas. But yearly army tradition is actually really solid. It's probably, in fact, more useful than the tax modifier. But again, it's up for you guys. It does change the term level duration. Most people would argue the shorter duration with the plutocratic ideas for trying to take plutocratic ideas and tie it to, let's see, where is it? Economic ideas for the yearly Republican tradition would in fact be more useful. So I would recommend, if you're wanting to be a bit of a warmongering republic, the noble elite should help quite a bit. Longer terms, aristocratic ideas. However, if you're trying to play a republic, go with the oligarchy, head for economic ideas and plutocratic ideas, and you should be good there. On the second level, you've got a choice between authoritarianism, -1 unrest, political dynasties, +1 random candidate bonus, plus you can kind of keep your dynasty on the throne, which I don't really know how that will help you in a republic, but it is possible to do now. And then on the last one is Republicanism, which gives you 0.2 Republican tradition. I would pick Republicanism right here. The +2 Republican tradition will, of course, help you re-elect your rulers more often without falling into dictatorships. Although the political dynasties is probably the next best one, I would not really go with authoritarianism. Plus, -1 unrest is pretty solid, but it's not worth having less stable republic. Besides, being a republic, you get -2 unrest just based off your level of Republican tradition. So you're automatically going to get something. Next one is Tier 3, frequency of elections. This one is a bit more of a tricky one. So you can do frequent elections, reduce the maximum amount of absolutism you have, and lower the election term. I would not recommend this one. Instead, I would recommend Consolidation of Power, +10 absolutism, +1 length of election terms. This is solely due to the fact that by being a republic, you have usually a lower cap of absolutism. If you see, even Venice has a reduced amount. I think the only one that, as far as I know, doesn't have that penalty is Novgorod. In the case of Dithmarchin, you get a -50 penalty, which is absolutely crushing to your absolutism. Other than that, though, the more frequent elections would help you get better rulers faster, but obviously reduced absolutism is really a killer after 1600. Even for a republic, you want more. Next one, regionalism. You've got the choice between provincial governments, reduce state maintenance by 25, administrative divisions, +5 states, or union of states. So out of these ones, depends what type of a government you're going for, but overall, if you can take union of states, it's worth doing. If I remember, there are some ones that can't take it. I think it's linked to plutocracy somehow. Other than that, the admin divisions will help you with a number of states. Provincial governments really would only help you if you've got an even larger government or running a lot of local edicts and stuff. Then after that, you've got separation of powers. -1 unrest enables parliament, or presidential system, -10% embracement cost. Now this one's a bit more of a tricky argument because some people really hate the parliament mechanics, and while they've improved a bit, they're still not the best mechanics in the game. On the other hand, -10 institution embracement cost, as nice as that is, it's not going to alter your gameplay that much. So honestly, I'd probably go with the parliamentarianism. Also because it will get you, if you have Splendor ideas, it will get you started on that Splendor idea. Let's see, what's that? Age of Enlightenment? Either Age of Enlightenment or Age of Absolutism. I don't remember offhand. Plus the unrest is nice on the other side. Plus with the parliament you can get bonuses which can always help you. On the other hand, you do kind of have to bribe your way to get elections through. That's just the way it goes. Next one, Consolidation of Power. Brought in executive powers, -15% stability costs. Devolution of powers, +1 diplomats. This one might seem a little counterintuitive, but I would go with brought in executive powers. Although an additional diplomat is definitely amazing, in fact, reduced stability cost is a real benefit for republics, because as soon as you fall below 100 tradition, the cost of rebuilding your stability goes up quite a bit. Although you will not lose stability if your ruler dies. I don't know if you lose it if they die in combat. You might. It's if you're down around 70 Republican tradition, which is the lowest, or 60. That's the real lowest you should ever get to, unless you're wanting to switch to a monarchy, or rather a dictatorship first. That will allow you to regain your stability. If for some reason you lose a couple stability in a row when you're that low, which has happened to me, and it is rather painful. The next one, guiding principle of administration. You could either have political principle, +1 admin policies, or moral principle, +1 diplomatic policies. Overall, I find the admin policies to be better, so I would usually go with political principle, but again, it's kind of your choice, depending what ideas you've been going through and selecting. For example, if you've been doing lots of trade ideas, you might want to consider diplomatic ones. That's just really personal preference on that one. And then you've got electorate. You can either have landholders +10 manpower recovery speed, or citizenry +10 morale of armies. Now, if you've watched me play any of my other stuff or watched any of my opinions on idea groups, you'll know I love morale. So I would go with citizenry. 10% morale, true by the time you get it, it's getting towards late game, but it will help you compete with some of those morale powerhouses. I'm looking at you, Prussia and France, and even Castile, Spain. And if you're expanded to that point, you're fighting them, that will certainly help you with your ability to fight them. If you're not fighting them, manpower recovery speed is kind of nice, but that again is another military stuff. Also, if you go plutocratic ideas over here, you get 20% manpower recovery speed. And if you're really having troubles with manpower, you take quantity ideas, and all of a sudden you got 40% manpower recovery speed. You shouldn't ever really need the manpower recovery unless you're not doing well. The next one, you've got office selection, sortition, negative yearly corruption, 0.05, or extended suffrage +1 max promoted cultures. This one is a no-brainer, at least in my mind. I would go with sortition, assuming that's how you say it. I don't think I've actually seen that one before. The yearly corruption reduction is a real benefit, especially now if you go over your states and territory limits and start getting corruption there. But also because if you're trying to conquer things, which you might be doing, having reduced corruption is always a real benefit. Plus, if you tie it with some of the other reduced corruption ideas, let's see, which ones were those? I think they are associated with economic ideas. I don't actually know offhand. There are a couple new idea groups that, if combined with other stuff, do reduce corruption, which is... there we go. Espionage ideas with admin. Not only do you get the reduced corruption in espionage ideas, but you can also get a -0.1 yearly from espionage ideas. If you take defensive ideas and admin ideas, which most people end up doing, you can also get another yearly corruption. There are quite a few ways to reduce corruption now in the new patch, so that's always solid one. Next one, question of dictatorship. This really is your true choice between do you stay as a republic or do you shift outside of it. If you seize executive powers, obviously you'll lose 4 reforms and you'll shift to a monarchy. Proclaim divine guidance, you lose 6 reforms, essentially resetting you to almost 0. Although it'll actually resort you all the way down to 4, which not that bad because no of the other government forms have as many Republican reforms as the Republic. But my personal preference is strengthen executive powers, which will give you plus 25% max absolutism. Pretty much it will allow you, assuming you've also taken the absolutism from up here, it should allow you to compete roughly on the same levels as a monarchy, a little bit less. Usually you can get up to about 80 or 90 depending on how things go, which really helps. Or you can reinforce Republican values and get +1 admin free policies and negative 10% re-election cost, which is nice. But overall, the increased absolutism is usually much more powerful, especially at this late game. If you're doing well, you should have tons of monarch points flowing in, specifically if you combine it with the other stuff. However, if you're having trouble managing a Republican tradition, overall, you should probably take this one. 10% re-election cost. If you've got a 10-year term, that's 1. Other than that, it's not the huge benefit. I mean, if you've got 8, you know it's 0.8, which is useful, but overall I find the strength in executive powers to be much more of a benefit for a republic. So hopefully this helps you guys understand which Republican reforms you should take. Obviously some of them are based around personal preference, and different countries and different areas in the world have some slightly different government reforms, specifically like starting ones, which is always fun to check out. So by all means, go mess around with it yourself, but this should give you a rough idea of which ones to take and why you should take them. Essentially, you can maximize a pretty large income from your Republican tradition and absolutism, which by all means you should focus on because they're very powerful. On the other hand, if you played this Marchin, which I am looking at right now, you could probably avoid the maximum absolutism because it's not going to help you much, which is a shame because their government form is rather nice with the morale and production efficiency. If you're going for absolutism as these guys, try switching away your government form to either noble, elite, or oligarchy, because it will just overall be a much better time for you in general. So anyhow, that's the end of this guide. If you guys have any questions or comments or what you think you should pick for reforms, please leave them below in the comments. Also subscribe and check out my other guide videos and my pretty much daily Europa Let's Play videos. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.